In her book, The Inspired Caregiver, author Tia Walker states, "To care for those who once cared for us is one of the highest honors." My highest honor and my journey began in 2018 here in Camarillo. I remember we had just celebrated the Easter holiday with the whole family. Not a big family, but the whole family. And I remember I had taken that week off from work. And I made my daily call to check in on my parents. They were already in their 90s. So that was my daily routine. Sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a day, I would give them a call just to see how they were doing. But they were still very independent, strong people in their 90s, very resilient. They were of the greatest generation. They were World War II survivors. They survived the invasion of their country by the Nazis. They were both from Poland. And they immigrated to the United States in 1950 in their early 20s with a toddler, my sister, on an old naval transport ship across the Atlantic. So it's no wonder that they would refuse to have any help in their home, let alone a caregiver. And we had interviewed a few. Until that week, my dad fell. And that week changed our lives in a way like no other, because he needed an extended hospitalization, surgery, and rehabilitation. Throughout my nursing career, I had heard the expression, the beginning of the end, and I did not want to believe that about my father. He was better than that, I told myself. He was my world, my daddy, my tatuś, I called him in Polish. So I would see to it that I would get him through this and do whatever it took. I'm a lot like my father in many ways. We shared a lot of things, and one of them was our love for music. I learned to play the accordion for my father when I was about 10 years old. And it was very special for him because my father also played the accordion, but he played by ear, and I learned how to read music. So that made it he was so proud of me. We also shared our love for silly humor. So I watched a lot of Three Stooges and Abbott and Costello with him, and his laugh was contagious. And sometimes I felt like I just watched those shows just to hear him laugh, because then it made me laugh even more. So we shared some really, really wonderful times, and I really wanted to do everything that I possibly could for him at that time. So fast forward to the year 2020, everyone's talking about 2020, my mother fell. And my mother broke the same exact bone that my father did. It was the largest bone in a leg, the femur. Same bone, different leg. But her medical history was a lot more complex compared to my father's. So her treatment was a lot more conservative. And as we know, during COVID, there was no visitation in those facilities. So she had a hard time. She got confused at night. She was combative with the nursing staff. She refused to eat. And it was very hard for us to see this once very strong, determined woman that would carry her freshly laundered clothes up 2 flights of stairs in our home to hang them on the clothesline that extended over our backyard, now become very small and frail. During their hospitalizations, there was a tug of war going on in my brain. And I switched from daughter to caregiver to nurse to daughter to caregiver to nurse over and over and over again. Sometimes I wished I didn't know anything about healthcare, and other times I was grateful that I did. I didn't want the nursing staff to know that I was a nurse, because I did not want them to think that I would be watching their every move. But I knew what to ask, when to ask it, and when to pull out my medical vocabulary. And eventually they all knew, and it was really okay. My mom called me their angel, and I loved hearing her say that. It made me feel very proud yet humbled. I pretty much coordinated all of their care needs, but I did not do it alone. I have a sibling, my sister, my older sister, my only sister. She helped with what she was comfortable with, and that was their finances. So she made sure that their bills were paid on time, that there were enough funds for their care because we had them at home. We promised them, they asked us to not place them in facilities, so we had them at home, and we're very thankful we were able to do that. My spouse also helped and provided me with respite or breaks so that I could leave the hospital. I didn't want to leave the hospital because I was afraid I was going to miss the doctor coming in and giving important information, and my parents would not remember any of that. So my husband would go and sit with them so I could leave the sights, sounds, the smells of the hospital, and just go home and take a shower, have something to eat, close my eyes for a little while. And that was just priceless. I could not have done that without my family. We also had an awesome caregiver team that took care of my parents, and I realized these women were my lifesavers at a time when I needed help the most. And I also realized that I had to relinquish their care needs to others because I would have driven myself into pure exhaustion or illness. And then what good would that do? I wouldn't be there for them nor my own family. We have 2 sons, and they adored my parents as my parents adored them. My folks taught them so many things, and one thing was the value of family and also traditions. My folks would never let a special occasion go by without all of us getting together and celebrating, whether that meant a cake, a meal, a backyard picnic, whatever the occasion would allow. And we realized that eventually we had to assume that role because they could no longer do that. So we celebrated as long as we could, and they reached a milestone in their lives. In September of 2019, they celebrated their 74th wedding anniversary. We did not want to wait till the following year to their 75th because we did not know what each day might bring. So we knew we couldn't have a big party, and we were scrambling with ideas, trying to figure out what to do. And I found an accordion player that came to their house and serenaded them. She was lovely, and she serenaded them for about 2 hours. They were both in their wheelchairs with smiles on their faces, very happy, and it was a surprise, and they just loved it, and we loved it, and we were thankful we got to do that for them. We're very thankful that we celebrated as often as we did for as long as we could because our mom passed away the following year in August of 2020, the same year that she had fallen, and Dad followed her in April of 2021. They were both on hospice, they were both at home, and I was with both of them when they passed away, and their appearances were indescribable. No wrinkles, no facial lines, no grimacing, no looks of pain, just beauty and freedom from the worries of this world and just peace. And so the journey had ended, the story was over, but the highest honor had definitely been achieved. Thank you so much.